For Financial Literacy Month, PCN, in partnership with the Pennsylvania Bankers Association, presents Financial Insights.
Our guest today is Bernard Tynes. He serves on Pennsylvania Bankers Association Board of Directors and Executive Vice President, Chief Marketing and Impact Officer for Penn Community Bank. Today we're going to talk about spending, which is one of the 5 pillars of financial literacy. I guess just to start off, why is it important to understand how we spend money?
Spending is critical, right? It's a part of the overall budget strategy. So you don't know how to save, you don't know what your FICO score looks like if you don't understand the foundation of spending.
So before we get too deep into our discussion, for those that are not familiar, what is the Pennsylvania Bankers Association?
We are an association that supports the entire Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and we support the advocacy, education of financial literacy, banking, etc. We have over 120 member banks throughout the Commonwealth, and so we're a pretty vibrant organization.
You serve on the board of directors for the Pennsylvania Bankers Association?
I do. I'm honored to serve on the board of directors and also serve on their diversity, equity, and inclusion committee.
What does that role entail?
It entails just really supporting and advocating for the needs of our bankers across the entire state.
What do you enjoy about working in the banking industry?
Well, to be honest, I never intended to be in the banking industry, but now that I'm in it, I love it. I realize that most people are concerned about 2 things in life, their health and their finances. So it's an honor to help people with their finances.
Now, you mentioned you never expected to end up in the banking industry. How did you get into this field?
I thought I was going to be an attorney, and my parents said, you're on the 5th year of your college experience, go get a job. So I went to my local bank, finished my degree, and I never left the industry.
Now, you mentioned you're also involved in diversity initiatives. Why is that important when you're recruiting workers?
We really want, especially in community banking, we want our community banks to represent the communities we serve. And communities are diverse, right? So we want to make sure that's implemented throughout our banking strategy.
Now, throughout this series, there's been a lot of discussion about community banking and being enmeshed in the community that you serve. What does that look like for you?
It means full integration, right? So I also run the foundation of the bank that I work for. And we really, number one, community is the middle name of the bank that I work for, right? So we don't have a bank without the community. So that integration is absolutely critical in everything we do.
What do you find most rewarding about your job?
Helping people. Very much so, banking is an industry that helps people. They help people get their first home, their first car, refinance, send kids to college. So it's really helping people. It's a people business.
Why is it important to be a member of the Pennsylvania Bankers Association?
We're stronger together, right? So when people come together with common goals, common expectations, you can reach those goals much easier when you're together.
Now let's get into our discussion specifically about spending. What's the most important lesson that you'd like clients to know when they're making decisions about spending?
The most important lesson for me is track your spending. Psychology teaches us that most people don't like to track their spending because it's a burden, right? So you don't know where you're going if you don't have a map to get there. And by tracking your spending, understanding where you're spending, needs versus wants is really critical.
What basic advice would you give somebody who perhaps isn't currently managing a budget?
I would encourage them to use the technology available to them through their financial institution. Most banks have apps, right, that can help you track and understand your spending. Gone are the days that you have to, put pen to paper and write it out. There's apps to help you do that. And I would encourage everyone to participate in those applications.
What recommendations would you make for someone who perhaps lacks discipline?
Again, it goes back to really just tracking the spending, forcing yourself to record everything that you spend in some way, or so that you're really responsible, and then breaking that out into 2 categories, needs versus wants. Was this a need or was this a want? It will make you much more accountable to your spending habits.
Are there basic guidelines that individuals should follow when they're starting that budget and tracking their spending?
Yeah, I would say also understand what's coming in, right, after taxes, right, how much you're earning after taxes. I would encourage people to pay themselves, and by that I mean into a savings account, and then pay their bills as well, in order to make sure they have enough left over.
You mentioned that there are a lot of good online tools. Are there some specific tools that you'd like to recommend that people can look for?
First, I would encourage everyone to use the tool that their bank offers, right? Their local community bank or their national bank, whatever tool they offer. Most banks have an app. And then for me personally, I love the Acorn app. It helps you not only save, it helps you track, and it helps you invest quite easily.
At what age should someone start learning basic concepts about budgeting?
As soon as possible. I encourage parents to start their kids off as soon as possible before they even understand the concepts of savings. And then, take them to the bank, log on to the apps with them so they understand the importance of the process.
What are some good ways to do that, to teach your children in addition to just coming along to the bank?
I, every month, sit down with my son, look at his account, see what's going on. Now, I often joke that he has more money than I do. Right? He's only 10 years old. But so that he understands, or when the statement comes in, open it with him so he understands this idea of spending and saving.
Can you talk a little bit about the ways that banks educate people on budgeting? For example, running the gamut from a school group, a young school-aged child versus a young adult who might be just entering the workforce for the first time.
Yeah, great. Most local banks have wonderful programs, everywhere from elementary school all the way to college, that educate children and young adults on the principles of savings, investing, their FICO score, etc. I encourage people to take advantage of those programs. A lot of times they're incentivized to help young people start their savings journey.
Are there some types of spending that are viewed more favorably than others? For example, purchasing a property or funding college?
Yeah, absolutely. Purchasing a property is a great example because it accrues equity over time. College is a great example because no one can take education away from you. So those are opportunities to spend into your future, I like to say.
What does the financial activity of an individual tell you about that client?
Well, really, it tells us about their responsibility, their commitment to a good, healthy well-being in terms of their finances, and that can help decide whether they are worthy of a loan, etc.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit more. If you could talk about how someone's financial habits and credit history will play out as they seek a loan, they seek some sort of credit opportunity.
Absolutely. Your FICO score is critically important, right? It helps determine your credit worthiness. Your credit worthiness is determined about, do you pay your bills on time? That's one example of what can impact your credit worthiness. And all banks and all institutions look at those things to determine, how much might we be able to lend you, if anything at all, and at what rate.
So part of spending includes paying reoccurring bills. How does building credit fit into that spending?
Yeah, so reoccurring bills is very important, right? There are good reoccurring bills and not so good reoccurring bills. Positive reoccurring bills like your home payment or your insurance all support the growth of your FICO score and your credit history. But there's also opportunities to save money with reoccurring bills. All of the monthly subscriptions, I encourage people to always take a look at and see, do you really need a monthly subscription to Netflix or what might have you? You could save money by getting rid of those subscriptions.
Now, we've referred a few times to FICO score, your credit history. What all goes into someone's credit history?
There's a number of things that go into credit history. The length of time that you've had credit, right? That's considered. Is it a short term, a long term? Payments, are you paying on time? Are you paying your credit card off at the top of every month? Or are you allowing the balances to linger? Are you getting rid of credit? Are you canceling credit cards and loans? Those all play into understanding your FICO score, and that algorithm changes from time to time.
How can someone find out what their credit score currently is?
So everyone is entitled once a year to a free credit score that you can write in to the credit bureau and receive, each of the three main credit bureaus, as well as different apps. One of my favorite apps is Credit Karma, right, that updates you on your credit, but also your local bank. Many of them have credit reporting software incorporated in their apps as well.
What kind of activity will improve or create good credit score?
Payments on time, paying your balances in full each month so that you're not showing a higher revolving balance, all improves your credit score.
How frequently do you recommend checking your credit score?
If you're like me, you check it like on a monthly basis, right? I have a tickler on my app that tells me when the credit score has been updated. Some people check it weekly. Some people check it daily. It depends on what application you're using and your sanity, right? You don't always want to check it because sometimes progress is slow with improving your credit score.
For someone who's never checked their credit score, can you talk a little bit about the range of numbers and what's a good range to aim for?
Yeah, so credit scores range everywhere from 400 all the way up to 800 plus. A healthy credit score where most banks will lend is in the 600 range. Of course, as you go higher, the better the opportunity for financing and also the improvement of the rate of interest.
What can someone who's perhaps new to banking, perhaps they've just entered the workforce, what can they do to build that good credit score?
I would say pay your bills on time and also pay your balances off every month if possible.
And one more time, what is the benefit of having a good credit rating?
A good credit rating will give you opportunities to get financing when needed, but not just financing, even your local TV service looks at your credit to determine if you're a good candidate. It really tells the story about your financial history.
What final thoughts would you like to leave our viewers with?
I would encourage everyone to budget. I would encourage everyone to really track their spending, and FICO score is one of the ways to do that.
Bernard Tynes with the Pennsylvania Bankers Association, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Financial Insights is a presentation of PCN and sponsored by the Pennsylvania Bankers Association.